All right, so we're getting into chapter 2, and I'm only on page number 11, so I know there's people who've been ordering this. So if they want to follow along, open to page 11. It feels like I'm leading a church.
It's a read along.
Read along. And for Lars, yeah, no, I published this as a paperback 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I was like, yeah, so I ordered a paperback. Because I ordered it the first day. Because I was like, yeah, okay, it's my book, so I have to order it. I'd be a total jerk to go, well, I'm not ordering it. You see the price of that? Not that kind of, that's not going to happen.
I don't think that makes you a jerk for not buying your own book.
It would if I had a reason.
Of course, you'd want to buy your own book.
Well, yeah.
Because then you have a copy of your book.
All right, so this is where it starts getting into friends of mine that I was working with at the time I wrote this, and I was amping up their personalities for the book. Being mayor is cool. That's all Ben Wood says whenever he's asked about his recent appointment to head up Section C of Arcology 1237. At 26 years of age and as a single man, he is younger and less experienced than others who lobbied for this position. Ben was put in his position because he asked his father, Charles Woods, the man who runs the arcology. It is likely not the best way to choose who runs a large community, but there isn't a democratic fashion at this point to decide who gets his position, and he has no plans to change that. So see, 10 years ago, nepotism was still a thing. So people were put in a position of power for absolutely no reason other than, yeah, you're my kid, take it. So if anybody wants to take some kind of a statement on current events, wrong. This was written 10 years ago. Ben knows people aren't pleased with his recent appointment, and his decision to hire a young police force has also raised the ire of older people with more experience. Men and women who were police officers on Earth previously are reduced to other menial tasks and forced to watch relatively young men and women do the work they feel they could do better. His only defense seems to be that his force is fit and full of enthusiasm that he fears he won't get with an older force. In reality, he likely just doesn't want people who will not take his direction. Ben wants to be seen as in complete control. So it's all about, I don't want somebody who's older than me trying to tell me how to do my job. As far as jobs go, running a section of an arcology is pretty hands-off. People who are allowed in arcologies are psychologically screened, and no one with previous criminal convictions are allowed to move off-world and into these new worlds onto themselves. They're law-abiding citizens, and Ben hasn't had any real problems outside of certain people who don't agree with him being appointed to a role he has labeled as a mayoral job. He ignores the naysayers and wants to surround himself with yes men, since they're less objectionable than many others he meets on the station. So again, this is not any kind of statement of anything that's going on right now. This is kind of weird, isn't it? There's a virus going around. There's a guy going, I just want yes men around me. I don't want anybody to tell me something that I don't like. I wrote this a decade ago. I swear. You can check the copyright. As far as jobs go, running a section of arcology, blah, blah, blah. Okay, right. Technically, he is simply a sector manager, which is in no way a mayoral job in the scope of its importance. He just wants a title that seems more regal, and he's big on title. As he sits in his office, throwing pens at ceiling tiles and hoping that they'll stick, he smiles and says to Police Dispatcher Donna Meadows, maybe call me Captain Mayor Woods. I don't think people will call you mayor, much less Captain Mayor. We're having enough issues with people not trusting the law enforcement team for our section, Donna says with a laugh. Ben nods, pumps his fist when a pen sticks in a ceiling tile. I can qualify that as a good day's work right there. That pen is perfectly stuck. That's how easy this job is. Dad really cut me a break here. You might want to use your inside voice here to reduce resentment people feel towards you. You're not winning any popularity contest, Donna says, looking around for a potential sniper who doesn't like Captain Mayor Woods. Who gives a crap about popularity? I was appointed. They can suck it. Appointment beats elected. This job's for life. I get to rule Section C with an iron fist if I want to. I can really have fun with this. It's not like I have anything to worry about. My father made it clear to me that this arcology is the best and brightest population of any in orbit. I'm in great spot here, he says with a wide grin, and he spins around in his office chair. You can tell he was a good friend of mine because I was like, I'm going to take some liberties. And he's like, you do that. He loved it. This life you're fashioning for yourself could be shortened if you keep rubbing people's noses in it. Look, I need you to sign off on a few reports here, she says, and hands some paperwork to Ben. Once he stopped spinning in his chair, she could hand him blank checks and he would likely sign them since he clearly couldn't care less about anything but the pen sticking in ceiling tiles. He doesn't even read the paperwork he's presented with most of the time. Fine, I'll sign. I'd better before all my pens are stuck in the ceiling. When that happens, it's time to order new pens. People will wonder why you're ordering pens. Well, you have pens stuck in ceiling tiles, you know, she points out. They're a conversation starter. People will be like, hey, like the pens in the ceiling, and I can go from there. You need an icebreaker when dealing with people who wanted your job and didn't get it, because their last name isn't Woods. I can use the pens to bridge the gap between myself and my people, he says with a wink. Your people. Did you just wink at me? Donna sometimes wonders if the captain mayor of this section is serious about things or not. She's seen his serious side, but he shows it so rarely and seems to care so little most of the time. Ben rises from behind his desk. Well, I'm sure you have a lot of work to do, and I won't keep you. I appreciate all your hard work, Donna, and I know you'll justify my putting you in charge of our police force. Must be fun for Nate and Carissa to walk around with laser guns and badges. It's nice to give friends cool jobs as Captain Mayor. Donna rolls her eyes. You can at least pretend you didn't hand them their jobs. They need to appear worthy of their jobs you gave them if you want them to be able to do them properly. Ben, I like life here, and I know you have a good job, and I have a good job. But we have to treat it like it's a job. We're not on holiday here. People are watching us. Things can go wrong on these space stations. There are those space madness rumors and all, she says before she turns and leaves the office. I'll see what I can do about that whole taking it seriously thing, Ben says. Once she closes the door to his office, he looks down at his stapler. Wonder if my stapler has the ability to shoot staples high enough to stick in ceiling tiles. That'd be so cool. He laughs. It's so much fun messing with people in such a cushy job. Scene 2. So I've established Ben's probably not the best person for a job of captain, mayor, whatever he is for this station, which was what I wanted to go with. Because it's like, we've just come from like the bloodiest, messiest, grossest anything. And now you go to a new arcology where you know something's going to happen and it's run by an idiot. So I made it clear to him, like, you're going to be an idiot. And he's like, all right, I can do that. Arcology 1237 is much the same as many that orbit the Earth, though it is newer than most. They are numbered in order that they are populated, and thus this is one of the arcologies that has started relaxing some of the requirements in terms of people allowed to live in space like this. Where the first few arcologies were the best and brightest, now they're more middle-of-the-road people, and thanks to people worrying about life in space may actually shorten lifespans and be unhealthy in general, it's become more difficult to find people wanting the task of moving off-world. Of course, again, then you have the criminal background check and all that, and make it more difficult. In terms of names, all of the popular ones were taken, so they were stuck naming it Winnipeg. Most of the residents were transplanted from Canadian provinces, with some of the North American cities sprinkled in, and it was only Major City unused as a name for an arcology. Though it was known officially as 1237, the residents referred to it as Winnipeg, so it didn't seem as cold and remote as it actually was. I called it Winnipeg because one of my coworkers, that was where we had another plant. I used to tell her, you better smarten up or they're going to send you to Winnipeg. So I put her in here and I made sure she was in Winnipeg. Just so she'd yell at me. What do you mean you stuck me in Winnipeg? I'm like, you're in Winnipeg in my book. Canada's been one of the last countries to fill up in terms of population, taken 200 years beyond the point at which their neighbors in the United States had declared themselves as full and started routing all immigrants to Canada. Again, this is not a statement on anything that's happening right now at all. In fact, Canada's population crisis was a major reason these arcologies existed. Earth's governments knew once Canada and Russia fill up, there really isn't anywhere else to go except off-world, as this meant even the Arctic was overpopulated. So my book's basically the idea is that global warming's long forgotten because everything's completely heated up. Carissa Dahl missed life on Earth and didn't really want to leave, but her friends were going, and the prospect of living either inside an arcology with them or alone on an overcrowded planet left her with little choice in the matter. She knew that beyond the steel walls of the arcology lay deep space. One pinhole in the wall, without sufficient backup, would lead to everyone dying a horrible death. She likened the existence to living inside a tin can, albeit a pretty one. As she makes her way towards the observation deck, she looks at her badge and sighs. She's not a cop and she knows it. Ben gave this to her since he wants to treat his friends well, and being an officer among these people is considered easy. In her first 2 weeks on the job, she's had 0 calls, no reason to even talk to anyone about anything related to law enforcement, other than answering pickup lines from young and old men thinly veiled as questions regarding her feelings about her occupation.
Sounds accurate.
Yeah, all right. Her first day on the job, Carissa had been asked if she was a stripper for a bachelor party. She had considered using nerve gas on the guy who asked her that. She had some on her belt. Wouldn't permanently damage him, just scramble his brains for a day or two. She resisted that urge and then put up with other unkind questions from people she had sworn to protect. So, I watched her at work. There were guys always making comments and stuff, so yeah. This was just part of the trouble she had, and she would have dropped the job altogether if not for Ben having hired her. She had known Ben since they were children and had grown up in the same neighborhood, and she knew he was capable of great depth and emotion when he felt like it. She hadn't seen much of that guy since she arrived here, but she was holding out hope that she would, and soon. She was getting tired of defending him when people talked about how stupid or careless he was, as she knew deep down this wasn't true. As the elevator opens up, Carissa steps in on the observation deck, and she loses her breath again. The deck was at the bottom of the arcology, and the water which cycled in a ring around the outside of the arcology was clearly visible. The water was heated and used to run generators that run down the outside of the arcology. It was a self-sustained source of power, so it was inconceivable that anything could disrupt that power source. And I did use that word on purpose for people who've watched.
Yeah.
What movie?
I don't know.
Inconceivable.
Oh, yeah. Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's inconceivable. Yeah. I don't think that word means what you think it means. If Chris had known about the power shutdown of 443, she might have been even more frightened to be out here than she already was. The floor was made of the strongest and thickest glass mankind had ever created. It also may have been the clearest and was pointed towards the earth at this time. As Carissa walks across the floor in an open area, she appears to be walking on nothing high above the earth many miles below. Though her mind knows how thick and strong the glass is, capable of supporting the weight of 1,000,000 people, she nevertheless finds walking on it always plays tricks with her mind. Yvonne wouldn't be on it. She gets dizzy and sick to her stomach often when she comes down here, so she doesn't spend a lot of time on this level. People mill about down here, usually young families with small children who were in awe of the view. It was a changing view as the arcology rotated. If Carissa came back here in an hour, she'd be walking on a starscape instead of the globe. An hour after that, she could be walking across the face of the moon. Some people make a day of it, as if the clear floor was a thrill ride all of its own. They might have a picnic down here, sitting on the glass and eating sandwiches, whatever they wanted. Sure. There were floor cleaning robots down here working all day and night, though there was little point in even calling it day or night up here. It was all just time and didn't mean much. The floor cleaners had to take care of smudges, chocolate crumbs, fingerprints, lip and tongue marks, because you know that's going to happen, right? You're going to be like, I'll bet you I can lick the clean floor. Bet you won't.
Met our kids, eh?
Yeah. Various other leavings people messed up the perfect glass view with. The cleaners worked among people and weaved through crowds without tripping anyone as they moved. Being as noisy as possible whenever anyone is close enough to possibly step on them. Sort of like cats.
So it's like a Roomba. Got it.
Yeah, noisy Roombas. They were as intelligent and pleasant as motionless robots could possibly be. Those on this arcology were far less stressed than those on 443, which were trying to clean up an impossible mess on their glass. That's the one from the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a bunch of dead people. Carissa walks to the wall and places her fingers against the glass. As she leans forward, it's like flying through space without a spaceship or even a suit. This is as close to Supergirl as she's likely to get. She doesn't stay in that position for long as it always makes her nervous. She turns and heads to the coffee stand near the middle of the large, nausea-inducing room. The lovely law lady come to pay me a visit, the coffee vendor asks from behind the counter. No need to flatter me, John. I'll have an ice cap, she says with a smirk. Coming right up, John says as he winks back. So when are you going to arrest me so we can hang out? I mean, you've been bugging the hell out of me for a date since you got here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the other way around, she says. John pauses to think it over. I don't know about that. Tell you what, we can discuss it over dinner tonight. It's too complicated a matter to decide on right here since we're both on duty. You're on duty? To serve and make coffee. Yes, ma'am, he says with a salute. We have as much in common. We have so much in common, really. You enforce laws, I enforce coffee, I guess. There's a conversation starter right there. Coffee's a complicated subject that exists on so many layers. Oh, really? John catches sight of something from the corner of his eye and he leaps over the counter. He runs and tackles a man before he has a chance to stab a woman he had been walking with. John grabs the knife from the man while pinning him down behind the back. What the hell were you about to do, pal? John asks, slapping the man on the side of the head. He looks over at the woman who'd been the intended target. You okay? I don't know what happened. He was fine, and then he drew a knife. The shocked woman replies, "Do you know who I am? You can't touch me," the man insists while fighting to get away from John's firm grip. For a man who sells coffee, John's pretty strong. Carissa rushes in and takes over from John. She looks over at him. "Coffee vendor, huh? Maybe we do need to have dinner." John nods as he allows her to take over. He can't tell her the truth. He wants to, and maybe he could break down at some point and tell her. The knife incident signals that things are proceeding as he had been told they might. He had hoped they were wrong. That's the end of that scene.
I am remembering that part. That's the best part I remember in the book where that happens.
Where he's like, "I'm just a coffee vendor."
Yep,
and then, "Nah, I'm not." But
yeah, I remember that.
Coffee's a really complicated subject. So yeah, that's John coming in. So I'm introducing very slowly the characters I created when I was a kid. So first it's Mike, and then I bring in John, and then as the book goes along, it brings them together. Sort of like, I mean, one of the things I wanted to do is I thought, I wrote this when I was a kid, and all these characters ones I knew, but then I had seen the Star Trek movie, and I thought, the way that Star Trek, when they did the reboot, they slowly put everybody together. That was great. And I thought I want to do that kind of thing too, where you don't just have everybody rushed together.
Yeah.
Slowly bring them together. So that's what I was doing, even though John and Mike have nothing to do with each other at this point in the book. But yeah, so there you go. Those are 2 more scenes in the book. That brings us through 4 more pages. I wrote about 3.5. So, what do you think?
About what?
Well, what you've heard so far.
Well, I've already read the book, and you already know that I like the book.
So, I get nervous because I've never
read it to me forever.
I know, but I've never done this. Like, I've never actually stood in front of a webcam or otherwise to read my novels. I have no problem reading. She mentioned this earlier. I have no problem reading other people's writing.
Yeah,
because it's not mine.
To him about this.
It's not mine, so I can read it. I can put all the character inflection. I tried to be better this time.
I did notice.
I tried to be better this time.
I pointed out to him that he reads his books different than he reads other books, because he's read on the Hockey Channel before, the bedtime stories, and he's read books to me before, and I really like it. So I like Shannon talking, but when he reads his books, he reads it with a lot less inflection and more like nonchalantly.
Because I'm critical.
Yes.
So I look through it.
I figured it was because you're reading it and you're just like, You read other books and this is the book.
Yeah.
You read your book and you're like, oh my gosh, look, I didn't capitalize that.
What was I thinking?
The punctuation needs to be there.
What was I thinking?
Totally missed that. What?
And then the fact too that it's 10 years later, so I would write it completely different right now than I wrote it back then.
Of course.
It would be a completely different novel.
Right. Well, you're in a totally different headspace too.
Yeah.
So that would affect things a lot. A lot.
I probably, if I was writing it now, I'd probably start it with some big battle of some sort, and then go out into the after effects of that and how all of that settles out. But I mean, I could always go back and do a part 6 and just do like generations later. So, just as a
you totally do that in your spare time.
I have spare time now.
No.
So
you really don't, though. You're still spending a ton of your time doing videos and stuff.
Well, it's my job. And there are people on the internet who are kind of counting on me right now for
a lot more than usual.
Their daily indulgence of video goodness.
Yeah, more so than usual.
I felt that this was one thing I was waiting for the summer to do, and I could do it now. And I'm even wearing my spiffy Star Wars jacket and a Star Wars shirt that I got in Disneyland. So
Disneyland.
Before it all closed up.
Oh,
and MGM closed up today. Well, they close up on Tuesday. The casinos close tomorrow, and then the hotels close on Tuesday. So even if we had the cavalier attitude, that's it, we're going anyways, we still would have been back on Tuesday.
We wouldn't.
And it would have been a horrible time because we would have had to find a flight.
We would have had that attitude because I don't know.
Can you imagine arriving at the Strip and there's nobody there?
Well, I can't imagine even trying to go across the border. I mean, of course, we'd be going through the American border.
Where they don't care.
They don't care. It's the coming home part.
So you guys are going to be self-isolating? Yes.
I am pretty sure.
And we would have done like a 36-hour trip.
And then in a week from now.
And then think about it. We would have come home on Tuesday, and then you would have to drive back to Seattle to pick up the boys. So that would have been another trip to Seattle. Like, it's just the logistics would have been absolutely awful. So yeah,
I don't think that would have worked at all.
This works out. So we're gonna keep going through this. I intend to do a video a day as long as Yvonne's available, and as long as the internet wants it.
Yeah, because I'm so busy.
So as long as the internet's interested in this, I will continue to read it.
Otherwise, you could just read it to me.
I could, but you don't pay me for reading it to you, though. So
You don't really get paid for doing this either.
no, no, but you know, it's been
something Entertainment Guide channel.
Well, no, it's been better.
It's
It's been better the last couple of weeks.
But still.
But it is this one. This one's my hobby. This is the one that's more hobby than job. And that's just fine. I don't have a problem at all with that. I enjoy it. It's nice for a bit of a break, a bit of a change of pace. And we have movie reviews we're gonna load up and line up for people as well, because we've seen a lot of movies lately we haven't reviewed.
Have we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Remember Ready or Not?
Which one was that?
The wedding night. They're hunting her on her wedding night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that one. Okay.
Yeah, that one's kind of hard to miss.
That's
and then
right.
you watched Benny and June last night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's Johnny Depp.
He was a quirky character, though, which is weird for him.
Always.
It's weird for him to be such a quirky character.
Yeah, so must have been a big stretch for him.
Yeah. Well, that was right around the start of him playing quirky characters, though. I think that was... I don't remember if that was after Edward Scissorhands. I think it's right around the same time as Edward Scissorhands. So, anyways.
Edward Scissorhands is fantastic.
There you go. So, I try to read through 2 scenes a day. And so we'll get there. Yesterday it was, I think, only 1, because we were at the end of the chapter. But as you see, with each chapter, the way I structure it, each chapter is about a different set of characters. So it's, all right, in this chapter, this is what's going on in this location, this chapter is this location, and I know that's a little bit of a different structure than some authors who every scene is its own chapter. But I can't do a scene that's 8, 10, 12 pages long. It gets too tough for me, because I don't like all that. I don't like extrapolating it out that far. I don't like because I know with Stephen King books, they drive me insane. Where I'm like, wait, are we still talking about the porch? Okay, and I'm flipping pages, I'm like, holy crap, he is still trying to describe the clouds. What the hell's going on? And I skip ahead. So I'm a big Dean Koontz fan, so the way that I write, there's some influence from Dean Koontz, who just gets to it. And I know people don't like Dean Koontz, comparatively speaking, to Stephen King, and that's been often talked about, but I have a huge collection of Dean Koontz books, and I don't have any Stephen King books. Dean Koontz, it's easy to get through. TikTok is like one of the greatest books I've ever read in my entire life. It's funny, it's scary, it's hilarious, and creepy all at the same time, and it's just great. So, and very witty dialogue. Very, very witty dialogue, which I try to get into my books. I don't know how my dialogue is. I don't know. Because, again, I don't want to critique my own stuff.
Right.
But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And again, during this time of uncertainty and all this other stuff going on out there, in here, normalcy, and according to our thermometers, we're perfectly fine.
Yes.
We're fine. So there's no need for any concern. We have allergies. That's as far as anything goes.
I have a lot of allergies.
Yes.
And
So you're going to get a lot of side-eye.
I know.
You're going to get a lot of side-eye.
I know. I have face masks, though, for when I go out in
Because
public.
it's allergy time of year, so.
It really is.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Do be safe, and do your best to just, I think the optimistic approach is better. Just like, okay, we're doing what we have to do so things are better later. That's how I'm approaching this. And
look out for those around you.
Yes. So
we're all kind of in this together.
Yes.
So.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It does mean a lot. I will talk to you again soon.